So I normally, y'all know I don't even be showing myself on video. I don't even know where to begin. I just don't even know where to begin. So I don't even know where to begin. So yesterday, there was so much stuff that was on my heart that I was like, Lord, I gotta get this done, I gotta get that done, and I gotta go after this. I'm grinding, trying to get this done, and um basically focusing and asking God for direction. And I decided, okay, I'm gonna write down everything, and I'm gonna seek God in it, and I'm gonna focus, and I'm gonna be more focused than I ever been before. I'm thinking I'm gonna be so focused, like I'm gonna just go after my dreams, my goals, my ambitions, and I'm gonna go to work. I'm gonna do what I gotta do, and then when I have some off time from work, I'm gonna grind and do this. And I just had everything planned out and mapped out the way that you know what I'm saying. I'm just like, okay. So I woke up this morning, and usually I leave work around. I'm usually up around like 6:30, so I usually leave at a really good time. I usually leave out before 7 o'clock, but this time I ended up leaving out like basically like 7:50, and I'm like, I'ma still make it. I'ma still make it, you know. So I'm listening to my music. I got my coffee. I got all my bags or whatever in the car. I'm listening to my music, and I'm driving. And I'm going down the hill and I'm listening to my music. And while I'm going down the hill, this same spot by the house, it seems to have all of these random accidents, like people just get in accidents at this spot. And so while I'm driving, I noticed that there was a car that was off to the side. It looked like another car had stopped. And while I was coming, I was like, evidently, the accident happened so quickly that I was the next car to have come on the scene, and I was being waved down to pull over. So I pulled over, and when I pulled over, um, I grabbed my phone, and immediately I called 911, and I asked the people when I get out the car, I take my car, my keys out the ignition, and I asked, is everybody okay? And the guy says, the man in that car, he's fine, but we don't know if this person is fine in the car. And you know how you just know, like, you know, sometimes when certain things happen in your life, that sometimes God will send certain people there at a particular time to help. And so when I looked at the other car, the car was like it looked like a Honda or something like that, like a Toyota or something like that. And I went, the side of the car was just smashed on one side and it was smashed on the other. And looking through the window, I could see that the airbags had they exploded. So, or I guess they ignited. And so anywho, so I called 911, and 911 is like, what is your emergency? And I'm like, I'm hearing that there was a bad car accident. And I opened the door. And when I opened the door, um, the airbag was up, and I could tell it was a woman, and her body was slumped over. I could not see her head or anything like that, but I could tell her body was slumped over. Now, if y'all looked at my videos about 2 years ago, I actually had what is this? Hold on. What was I gonna say? Oh, 2 years ago, I think I actually did a video where I was driving down where I live at again, but I was driving down on the highway part and I witnessed a car that was swerving. I was trying to call the police because I realized the person must have fell asleep. And when the person hit the other car, the person I mean was out of control. The whole Benz was total. The car that she was in was total. And I ran over there and I said, ma'am, get out of the car now, get out of the car. And I unbuckled her seatbelt, and I could hear that whoever was on the other end, she was praying, and she was praying hard. And I was like, wake up, get out of the car, get out of the car. Because I didn't know if that car was going to explode, because the leakage, the engine, like everything was just so bad. And when I went, the lady, I thought that she was dead, but she was actually, I guess, sleep or out of it. And she woke up and she came and stumbled out of the car and kind of came to. But the other person was pinned in their car. Like, this was a bad accident. So fast forward into what happened this morning. So when I approached the car, um, I'm thinking, where the guy already braced me to say, like, we don't think that something's going on with this driver. But I'm thinking, like, things will be okay, because like a couple of years ago I seen a lady go through the same thing. So I opened the door and I'm like, hello ma'am. I was like, come on. And when I called 911, the lady said to check for a pulse. And I checked for a pulse, and I couldn't get a pulse. I couldn't get a pulse. And then the guy that was with me, his hand was shaking so bad. He was like, "Yeah, I got a pulse. I got a pulse." But I'm like, I couldn't get a pulse. And I was looking at her back, and I noticed her back. I didn't see any breathing. Like, you can see a person breathing even if it's a little bit. It's like I zoomed in and I didn't get any type of it didn't I didn't get anything that the woman was breathing. And then and then I kept talking to her, and I'm so sorry y'all, because all of this happened this morning. I kept talking and I kept saying, come on, ma'am. I'm like, ma'am, do you hear me? Do you hear me? And somebody said, don't touch her neck. Don't touch her. You don't want to break nothing. Her neck could be broken. I'm like, ma'am, do you hear me? I'm like, come on now. I finally got the courage to kind of like move the airbag out of the way, because the entire right side of her car was crushed. That the entire right side of the car was crushed, that I did not want to see if it was a mortality, like with her head or something like that. So I was afraid because of that airbag. And then finally I was able to move it, and I saw her entire face, and I moved her back. And the lady on the phone proceeded to say, which is the 911 operator. She was like, do you feel a pulse? And we said no. And then she said, remove the person from the vehicle. And so I told the guys that was with me that we need to remove her from the car. And the guys were one of the guys said, okay, I can he cut the seatbelt out, and they lifted her up and put her on the ground. And she said, we need to start doing CPR. Does anybody know how to do compressions? And they did compressions on her chest, and we were counting. And I went inside of her smock, and I pulled out her name tag. And because at first, when she was in the car, they asked, how old does she look? And I said, she gotta be like 26, because I noticed she was a black woman. She had a ponytail. And then when we took her out on the ground, I went inside of her smock, and the first thing I thought was, oh, she's a nurse, because I could see the scrubs that's on her. Like, these are something that a nurse would wear. And I went inside and I saw her name tag and her name. And I started calling her name, and I said, I need you to look at me, because the thing is that when I saw her face, when I opened the door and finally was able to pull back her body from the airbag, her eyes were open. And it was lifeless. It was lifeless. Like, it was no movement whatsoever. It was no movement whatsoever. Um, and I noticed, I was looking, I'm sitting up here and I'm taking everything in, and I'm looking at everything and all of the parts around her, and I'm looking at her arms. I do realize, I noticed too that when the guys lifted her up and put her on the ground, her right, I noticed that her head, she was not bleeding on her head, but it looked like her head had been dented. I noticed that when they placed her on the ground, her right arm was, it looked like her arm was dislocated. She had blood on her nose. When the guy started doing the compressions, a lady pulled up, a white lady, not that it matters the color. She pulled up and said, "Hey, I'm an EMT, but not on the medical side. Do you guys need some help?" And we was like, "Yeah." So she came over and she started doing the compressions. And she didn't get a pulse at all. And I was like, "Come on, Megan." I'm calling her name. "Come on, come on, come on, come on. Like, come on, come on, come back now." I'm just talking. I'm just talking. But before they pulled her out the car, before before the paramedics, um I didn't think it was gonna hit. But before they said to remove her, before, not paramedics, but before the 911 operator said to remove her from the car, um I prayed. I said, "Father, in the precious name of Jesus Christ, touch this situation. Lord, touch this situation, Father, in the name of Jesus." Like, I put my hand on her back, and I said, "Father, that's the only one I know to call on is God." Especially when it's a situation where it wasn't like the other time. Jesus. It wasn't like the other time when the lady, and I'm like, "Ma'am," and she jumps up and she gets up. It wasn't like that time. This time it was, her eyes was open. Her eyes were open, and when I looked at, I saw lifeless. I saw lifeless. So, when she's on the ground and they're sitting up here pushing on her chest, they're pushing on her chest and doing CPR. Blood started to come out of her mouth from both corners of her mouth, on both sides. And and her mouth, at first her tongue was a little out, and then it was like her mouth is open, and blood started to come out. Then the fire department shows up, and this big black guy, he gets out and he takes over to do compressions. But when I tell you, the way he was pounding on her chest, we were like, whoa. Like, he was putting strength in, and bubbles were starting to come out. And I know it's just, So I went back to the car and I was just looking in and trying to see if I see another ID, a purse, a phone, something. And I found out of all of that wreckage, her daggone phone was still intact. And I picked up the phone and said hello, and there was a voice that said hello. It was her friend. And I said, ma'am, your friend has been in a very bad accident and she's not responding. And I don't know what it is with us, because even me at 40 years old, you know who I asked for? I said, where's her mother? Because this is just going to hurt. And so I'm on the phone with her friend. I'm like, how old is she? And she's like, she's 41. So me thinking she's 26, she's 41. She's my age. And then she was like, we worked together. I just relieved her from work. She was on her way home. That's my friend. I stayed on the phone with her. And so me and her were on the phone at the same time. And I was just going back and I was talking and I was like, you need to get in touch with um you need to get in touch with her family. Like, because to me, if it was my loved one, I wanna know. And of course, I mean, I wasn't crying then. I'm not, I'm just, it's starting to hit me because I was at work all day long and kind of messed up with the whole scene and still have to go about my way. And I'm just like, you know what, some things in life, it's just, it's not important. So next thing you know, I tell the lady that, look, I have her cell phone, so I don't know if the EMT is going to take it or like I don't know who's going to take it, but this is my contact number, so I gave her my contact number. And from there, a cousin called and asked where she was located, and I was trying to give them the address of where she was located at. By the time then, I'm still seeing them doing compressions on her. I'm still seeing her lifeless body. I'm still seeing her eyes just in a glaze, and there's no life in her whatsoever. And then finally the ambulance go up, and when they go up, they just put this white thing over her mouth, and they still doing compressions. Put the white thing, like, not even doing a defibrillator or anything. They just put it over her mouth, and I knew when no air coming out of the ear, like they put something down her throat, and it's just like it's nothing. Next thing you know, then the patrol guys show up, and that old guy, I don't know who he is, but I'm gonna find out who he is and say he need to retire. He need to retire quick. Cause he come up on the scene like, oh yeah, nah, uh-huh. I mean, like, he's just the big show. Like, you've seen this so many times that you become so numb to it. But anywho, um, next thing you know, they just told me, man, just go ahead and sit in the car. So I sat in the car and I didn't move my car. I just sat in the car. They didn't want me to move the car at all. I'm still on the phone with her family. Now her family is calling the cell phone, and they also calling my phone, and I'm letting them know where the location is and everything. And the mother called me, y'all. Oh my gosh, the mother. And she says that, she's in Florida. And I said her friend told me, and she was like, where they taking her? And yeah, I just I said, ma'am, I don't believe she made it. I do not believe that she made it. And I could hear the one lady in the background crying, and then the other guy. What I saw when I was sitting in the car, you could, because my mirror could see everything. They went ahead and they brought out the sheet, and they put the sheet over her body. And Um, Next thing you know, they had me to stay there to write a report of everything that happened from the time that I showed up on the scene and what did I see, and from the time, because they even said, "Do you know her? Do you know her family?" And I said, "I'm speaking to them right now. This is her phone." And they're like, the family has been contacted. And when I asked one of the guys, so I said, "So she didn't make it?" He was like, "Well, I don't know. I really don't know these things." And I'm like, "I get it. You're not trying to, but come on now." Like, and so when the ambulance rolled off, one thing I noticed, they didn't have the sirens on, because usually when they don't have the sirens, it means that the person is not living. They're basically taking the body to the morgue. So when I'm speaking to the mother was just like, "I just want to know what hospital." And I told her the location that we're at, and these are the two hospitals that you need to, and you need to. And then I was back and forth, still speaking to the friend on the phone. Then I get a message that it was one lady calling sister-in-law, the other one calling the other one. Well, one thing that the lady, one let me go back, one thing her friend was saying was like, we're mothers, and both of us, we went through some things, and we single mothers on that, and we would pray through some current, certain situations. And she was a praying woman, and I was just like, wow. And I could relate, being a single mother and 40 years old. And the one thing about mothers is that we get out there and we will grind. So she was coming home from work. She was coming home from work. So next thing you know, I get to my job. I'm speaking to my supervisor, like, "Oh, this is everything that went down today." She's like, "Whoa." Then after that, I get a phone call, and I'm about to go into a meeting with her fiance called. And I said, "I'm going to give you a call right back." Then I get a text message. This is her son. And I'm like, "Oh Lord," because our dad was sure didn't want to speak to, because she has, well, I guess it wouldn't matter even if it was her. She has a 21-year-old, and I was hoping that their grandmother was going to get in touch with them. And so I wasn't able to answer the text message with her son. But when I went to call back thinking it was her fiance, it was her son on the phone, and he was crying for his mother. He was crying for his mother. To hear a grown young man weep for his mother, he was crying for his mama. And I did not go into detail with him like how I was speaking to her friend, because how sensitive it is. But I told him that your mother did not feel any pain, because and what I know from your mother, just by speaking to her friend, that she's a praying woman. And I'm like, it was literally like God was just talking, and and I was like, if you know that your mother was praying, and you know that your mother was saved, then you know that to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. And he said, "Yeah, yeah, I know. It's just like, oh, yeah, she prayed." And it was like, you know, listening to that boy crying over his mama, and listening even with the friend just saying how much of a good friend she was, and her being on the phone with her. She was on the phone with her when the collision happened. She said that she heard her say, "Oh shoot," and the next thing you know, a loud bang happened. And so, and it was something, because I was speaking to a colleague, and she said if it was her, she would have never stopped. And I said, "Really? You would have never stopped to help?" And she was like, "No. No, because I'm afraid of stuff like that. I don't want to even, some people get real spooked out by it." I mean, the way Again, I started my day off and I was just like, oh, nothing but great and good things are going to happen today. Whoop, whoop, whoop. You never know where God will lead you, and you never know when it's your time to go. But when I spoke to the son, he explained to me that his sister did call him and let him know that she did not make it. So the family was able to track down their loved ones right away, like right away, and and check on them. But yeah, she was not she was she was not alive when she was leaving out. She I feel like that impact was so severe that she just didn't survive it. And I also feel like, and I told her son too, the minute she saw the glimpse of the Lord, she was like, that's it. But I didn't think I didn't think I would witness that today. So I learned a valuable thing today. I learned something. The things that we may plan for tomorrow, or the things that we may plan for today, we may not understand that it may just be your last day on earth. You may not know if God needs to use you to be at a particular place at a particular time to ease somebody, or to speak some encouragement into somebody's life, or for you to witness something so you can realize what's most important. The 9 to 5s are not important. Here I am. I'm all like, oh, I'm late. I'm running late. Here I am, and usually I would have left a little bit sooner than that on the same road. And I called my mom, and I was telling her about the accident, and she was like, yeah, I know they had the place blocked or whatever. And I had to tell her that a lady, she passed away. She literally, like, she died. Like, you it's a helpless thing too, when you really can't do anything else, because the person is just not there anymore. It's just, they're not there anymore. I I I feel like some internal damage was done, and that's the reason why the blood was coming up the way it was. And she looked very familiar. She just looked very familiar. I don't know if I've ever seen her. I don't remember meeting anyone, but she just, people don't know how to drive out here. Um, but yeah, she passed away, and she left behind a 25-year-old and a 21-year-old. And I was talking to the son, and I said, your mother did very good, because look, you're 25, your sister's 21, and he was crying for his mom. And I said, if I could give you a hug, I would. And you, there was really like you. So I learned something very valuable. Jobs come and go. But the stuff, I mean, I've heard this saying before, but the stuff that you get in life for free, you can't get that. You can't. You just can't. So I have a big perspective on the things that we worry about so much, because it sounds like, from what her friend was saying, is that they prayed a lot, and as mothers, and you have kids, and you going through certain things and stuff like that. You think about the woes of the world, but I don't think she had a clue. And then after they took her body, I saw another woman show up. She looked, not that it mattered like what race she was. She looked like, I want to say, Hawaiian or something, like, I don't know, Chinese or something like that. And she showed up, had this look of relief and worry and wanted to cry at the same time. And I was looking and I was thinking, like, somebody lost their parents, somebody lost, their daughter. And I have to, every time when I go home, that is the road that I go up. That's the road that I go up to. Like, I have to go past that road in order for me, like, I have to be on that road in order for me to get home. I don't know, like, I'm really literally like in shock. Like, even the guy, even the fire, the what is the fire marshal, whatever you want to call it, he asked me, he said, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I wasn't hurt or in the accident." He was like, "Yeah, but you witnessed a lot. Are you all right?" I said, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine." So what really matters is, are you saved? Because I'm gonna tell you something. When you're saved, we got a redeemer. When the paramedics can't do jack, we got a redeemer. When they say we can't get a pulse, we have a redeemer. When they say there's nothing that we can do, we got a redeemer that says, I got this. you know. And I just thank God, because He's a redeemer. When we thought we wasn't gonna get a chance, a second chance, and He's given us a second chance. I was telling her son, I said, look, you may not see your mother now, But when the good Lord calls you home, if it can be like 60 years from now, you know she was saved. And I was just talking to her son, and he was crying so hard, but he heard everything. And I'm just so grateful that we got a redeemer, because I'm looking at a lifeless body, and I'm seeing that they're pushing on her chest, and I'm like, this lady is my age, and she's a mother, and she just came home from work. Lord, Father, please. But we have a redeemer that says, Mona, I got this. We have someone, we have a God that loves us so much that he makes her body brand new, wiping away the tears of people who fear and those who have been brokenhearted and lost someone. I learned a valuable lesson today. I learned a valuable lesson today. And I'm gonna tell you something else. I'm gonna tell you something else I learned. Hold on. Um, Everything that we worry about, we need not to be worrying about it at all. It's the little things that you can say, I may not have this, but I'm here. It's taking on those precious moments. And even in that situation, there was a big learning factor in that. Why worry about all the other stuff with your jobs and overworking yourselves? Just, because when you're gone, they're gonna replace you. Because even in the midst of all of that, I was still like, I gotta let my supervisor know I'm running behind. But I'm like, somebody just died. Death don't wait, then they can wait. I'm a Death don't wait so the bills can wait. Death don't wait so the stress, it needs to wait. All that worrying and stuff like that, that stuff need to wait. All that stressing in there and carrying on, and it just need to wait. Time is very precious. I learned a valuable lesson. I learned a very valuable lesson. There's been many people in the highways, down the highways, that that have died. There's been people that has died. People just they that's just natural. Anyway, my heart goes out to the family, and I'm gonna be keeping them in my prayers. It's nothing like losing your mother. It's nothing like losing a parent. thank you. And I just was like, and the mother, after a while, it's like she was just numb. But sometimes she was just numb. She was asking the hospital, and I almost not. I wanted to say her remains are going to the hospital, like her remains are going to the morgue, but she is not there. And I just told her what you want to do in this location is look up these two hospitals, let them know where the accident occurred. But I told the mother, I said, I'm going to be honest with you, man. She didn't make it. And even, I mean, I think I might have said, I don't think, and the reason why I say it that way is because it kind of lowers the blow. Because I told her friend she didn't make it. She did not make it. And the friend was on the phone, and I asked her if she could just keep me posted. And just keep me posted. And the friend did confirm and said that they did confirm her death at the hospital, and she did not make it. It really is. Our bodies are like, they're like cars. And I know you say, well, what do you mean, Mona? Well, the Bible says our bodies are like temples. When we pray, the things that we do, like what's inside of us, God knows it. But our bodies are shells. And just like that car got wrecked and damaged, her body got damaged that the soul it could no longer be housed in that vessel anymore. And when I looked at her eyes, like they were just open but lifeless. Her body was still a little bit warm, but you could start to feel like that warmthness leaving. It was a silentness. I can't it's like a silentness of that the person is not there even though you want to be them to be there. It was like a silentness, like there was nobody home. There was nobody home, and as much I was like, hey, I was like, look at me, baby, look at me. Like there was no coming out of it. And I realized, like, you know, the longer you live, the more you'll see. Nothing new is under the sun. Her friend said that she would always comment about that particular hill, that there was always some type of accident or something. And yeah, um, again, my day was something great is going to happen today. Something I'm motivated. I'm going to go to work and I'm going to do this. Let me tell you something. There are some things in life where life happens, whether we wanted to think good thoughts and manifest it in a way of, I mean, I was like, Father, I need you to guide me and lead me. I mean, I've been talking about that for the last couple of days. I need you to direct my footsteps. And he directed my footsteps to see and witness that. And at the same time, it was it was a hurtful thing to see. I mean, that guy, he was shaking. He was. One guy came and I think he was like, "Do you want to park over here to let the traffic go through?" I'm like, "Forget that traffic." I'm sitting up here trying to. I'm like, I'm not moving jack. Like we gotta. This is, you know. Sometimes in our minds, we worry so much about the little things. The little things. We really do. We worry so much about what we gonna wear, what we gonna eat, how we gonna do, what about the bill, how about this. It can wait. It can freaking wait. It can wait. Because when it's your time to go and something so instant like that, you couldn't tell death, hold on, you gotta wait. You gotta wait. I gotta brace my son for this. You gotta wait. You gotta wait. I gotta brace my mother for this. You gotta wait. I gotta let my daughter know that death is knocking at the door. Like coming back from work. And she's not even the only one, because the last accident, the woman fell asleep and she was coming from work. I don't know. So I know. The one thing I learned is this lesson learned. Tell somebody that your daughter has passed away. Lord, 41 years old. 41 years old. I think, not even think, that was a wake up call for me. That was a big, that was, it was a wake up call for me. It was a wake up call. It was a wake up call. A wake up call. I mean, how could it not be? I mean, the thing is that when I was looking at it, when I was not looking at it, look in the situation, looking at the situation, analyzing the situation, it didn't, it hit when I heard her mother, and it really hit when I heard her son, because that's somebody's child, like that's somebody's, that person, even though I didn't know her. And some people, maybe that's the reason why you have a lot of folks that been in the field for a minute, ambulance and stuff, they show up on the scene, they're so like disconnected because it's not somebody they know. They say, oh, that's just, just look like a, it it literally is a lifeless body. It literally looks like a lifeless body. Even though her eyes were open and everything, there was just no life. And maybe people, I heard someone say in a video on a near death experience that when he got out of his body, it felt like he just took a coat off. And so me like literally just analyzing everything at this time, like, Father, what is this? And witnessing death, witnessing someone that's not going to go back home, that didn't have that happy ending like the other lady in the car 2 years ago, when I'm like, yeah, get out of the car, get out of the car. And she gets out the car, and I unbuckle her seatbelt and drag her out of that car. And I would joke about it, like I hurried up and got away from the scene because they wanted me to write down all of the other stuff, and I'm like, I don't know if that lady was drinking or whatever, but I don't, she's fine, they fine, I'm gone. But this was different. This was like all happy endings that we're used to don't come that way. It just that you may have, you get what I'm saying. There are times where people do go on to be with the Lord. We are all going to go through that transition, whether you like it or not. Yours may be until you hit 102, 104, 96, 72, 64, 39. You just don't know the way that you're going to go out. Some things can be, what's the word I want to say? Some things can be prevented. Others can be by the effects of what somebody else did. But the biggest question you need to ask yourself is, are you saved? Because the morning is totally different when you're not saved. Because all is lost. But when you are saved, you know it's not lost. I believe in the Bible. To be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. I believe in that. 41 years old, and he was crying, y'all. Even the mother, I knew she was conjuring up some strength. Like, all right, Okay. All right. I'm gonna thank you very much, ma'am. I'm gonna she was like, okay, this is a mountain that God is taking me through. Let me get it together. I could hear that in her mother. And I wanted to speak to her mother first because when her friend was telling me she has a 25-year-old son and a 21-year-old son, let me speak to the mother. Let me speak to the grandmother so she can get in contact with her grandchildren. Because ain't nothing like somebody calling you and telling you that your father or your mother or your brother passed and you want to know what happened and don't nobody know nothing. And I was telling her friend, like, I really don't want for her daughter to call because, a 21-year-old girl and you finding out, you know. And I was talking to the son and I said, and I know you got a younger sister that you're going to give strength to. And, you can't even tell you can't tell a man not to cry. This is your mother. You're going to mourn for your mother. But I just said, I'm so sorry. And if I could give you a hug, I would. But what your friend was telling me about her is that she knew the Lord and she prayed a lot. And he said, yes, she did. Yes, she did. People act like it's so nonchalant when it ain't nobody that they know. We all connected, whether you know it or not, whether you want to believe it or not, we are all connected. And I guess God was like, Mona, this gonna be a different trip today. Because literally I'm coming down the hill and the guy is just motioning me to come on over here, pull over. I pull over. First thing I did was grab my phone and I called 911 and I said, is anybody hurt? And he said, this one over here is okay, but we don't know about this one in the car. And me being, oh, this person, let's get them out and, get them well, open the car door. And this, like, her lifeless body was just slumped over. And the airbag was just, it was, her face was over the airbag. So I couldn't see the other side of her face. And it dawned to me when I'm looking at everything, her back was crushed, her passenger side was completely crushed, that it almost went to her side. But the impact, she got that too, because when they took her out, when they lifted and put her on the ground, her arm was dislocated. But that impact, and I told her son that from what when I showed up, your mother did she wasn't in no pain. She didn't go through any pain because it was put down in my spirit that the impact is what that was it. The impact was so great that that was it. And so I had to be the next car to come down because there was no car in front of me. So I'm coming down the hill and they flagging me to pull over, and I pulls over and I go to open up the car door. I didn't just wait. I mean, I'm on the phone with 911 and I get out, and when he pointed at that car, just opened the car door, opened up just fine. It wasn't locked or anything. It opened up just fine. And when I looked in her eyes, her body, she was not there anymore. And she was not there. Yeah, she was not. Man, you said, man, ask who died. Um, it was a woman. She was on her way. I don't know I never met her. I just showed up on the scene um to help aid, but she died, and I just it was sad. It was sad when I opened up the door and they said, "How old does she look?" Cause the other person was on the phone, and I said, "She gotta be like 26." Cause I'm analyzing everything, and I remember saying something to her son like, "Your mother looked young," and he said she would get there all the time. But I said she gotta be like 26. And the whole time while I'm talking, her friend was on the phone listening to everything. She kept saying hello, hello, calling her name and everything. And I picked up the phone and I said hello, and she said hello, and I heard a voice, and I said, "Your friend is not conscious. She's not responding." The only thing I knew is where is her mother. Her mother is in Florida or something. And I said, okay. Then she said she got a 21-year-old daughter. I'm like, oh no. And then she got a 25-year-old son. She got a fiance somewhere. And next thing you know, her cousin called me, and I could hear baby in the background. And I was trying to tell her the location of the place. But when that mother called and said, "See, we out of town," and I was like, I know that you're out of town. And she said, "Well, where they taking her to?" She's expecting to go, and I'm like, "Ma'am." And the only reason why I wanted to tell her mother that is because that 25-year old and that 21-year old needs to hear from their grandmother versus going there and then taking that. And you need to hear it from you need to hear it from. I mean, it's just sad. But that was a reality check for me. I don't know. Like I said, you keep on going through life, you gonna see some stuff. You know, I've had babies pass in my arms and take their little breaths. I had my dog pass in my arms. I went to go see my dad before they took him to the morgue. Seen a lady get in a car accident and walk away from it, and now I just witnessed the lady gone, just gone, and relaying the message to the family. Um, I learned something today. Anyway, um, I learned something today. I learned a valuable lesson today. I learned a very valuable lesson today. Anywho, y'all have a blessed night tonight. My prayers goes to Miss Megan's family, her son and her daughter, and her mother and her friends. She had such a dear friend on the phone because they were on the phone and she was talking to her. And she said they prayed a lot. She said, as mothers, when you go through things, and she said we were going through some similar things and, dealing with the men out here and your children and stuff. And she said she gonna miss her friend, but she was a praying sister, and that's a good thing to know. That's a great thing to know. And honestly, that made everything just so light. Um, but anyway, y'all, let me get on out of here because I gotta get ready to go see my baby. And y'all be careful out there. Um, don't stress about anything. Excuse me, I got to blow my nose. Don't stress about what you're gonna wear, what you're gonna eat, where you gonna go, because today got enough issues of its own that we got to deal with. We don't know what tomorrow gonna bring, and some of us that worry so much about getting to the place that we need to be, and finally get there, just for God to say, "Nope, you're coming on home." I learned that with my father. I moved him into his own really nice spot, and the Lord said, "No, I got a better spot for him," and took him. You don't know your time, your day, your hour, and people don't want to. They don't want to talk about it, think about it. They don't even want to. They don't want to hear about it. But I'm trying to tell you, just that quick, that lady was gone. She was gone. I thought, oh, this gonna be just like the net. Okay, who's in trouble? Oh, open the door. Let's come on. She was not there in her temple anymore. You think that things are going to go the way you want them to go. You think that you got so much time to do this, that, and the third, and you think all I got to do is think. All I got to do is think happy thoughts, and today is going to be an awesome day today. Today is going to be a day of fulfilling and a day. And don't get me wrong, it'll be days, and I'll be like, today was an awesome day, but today was a for real, for real, for real reality check. It was a reality check. And I ask God to direct my footsteps. I don't even want God to just be a light unto my path, but to direct me, Lord. I need you to move me. And He moved me right there at that exact time to witness that, to be a part of that. And I learned from that. She was a mom like me. She was working like I work. And they praying and stuff, and just like me, I pray. And she went on to be with the Lord. See that? And see, there's another thing too, and I say this all the time, because your preachers, your fake, trifling, false preachers don't tell you to be prepared when your number is up. Everybody want to hit the lottery, right? Everybody go out and play the number, but everybody got a number when their number is it's time. So the big question is, what's going to happen after your time? Where you going to go? Where you going to go? I've seen feel good preachers out here. We done talked so much about the TD Jakes of the world, about these so-called folks that's telling you about go get this or go get that. But the reality is this, is that somebody dies every second, on the second, before the second. And somebody is born every second on the second before the second. Nothing new is under the sun, and there's only two places you gonna land, and that's even you going to hell or you going to heaven. I did not know this woman, but from what her friend talked about, and she said she was praying on the phone the entire time, and from what her son can confirm, and the love that came from her son's cry, I knew that this woman, she knew the Lord, and that gave me ease. It's a total different than some young boy out there in the streets and been doing whatever, and he gets shot and killed, and he didn't even care for God. That's a different type of mourn. But yeah, her son, he was. And sometimes maybe you need to hear from a stranger you don't know, because when I tell you, when I called, he was mourning for his mother. Anyway, my question is for all five of y'all that's listening in: are you saved? I'm trying to tell you, you would think nothing like that would ever happen to me, but death is going to happen to everybody. You just don't know how you're gonna go. You really don't. But the question is, are you saved? If there's one thing that I got out of this today, is that God is showing me the realization of life and death. And what I took from that is that I need to let people know. Because when the paramedics, when they stop doing that CPR and they stop pumping, it ain't over. It ain't over when they put the white sheet over you. It's not over. Are you saved? Have you accepted Jesus Christ into your life as your Lord and your Savior? Have you repented of your sins and just strayed away from it? Even where you're at right now, invite Jesus into your life. Give yourself over to Christ, for he died for our sins. I don't care if it's nobody that hears it. I don't care if somebody comes back to this video 30 years from now. I learned a valuable lesson today. I learned a valuable lesson today. And I'm still, I learned a valuable lesson today. A valuable lesson today. Anyway, y'all have a blessed night. Pray for your family, your friends. Pray for this country. Be careful when you out here on these roads. Get a relationship with Jesus Christ if you don't have one. Y'all have a blessed